The Tank and G Show. Yeah, you know what to do. We talk about sports, and today, homeowners. Where you at? Let's go.
Hey, what do I have to freestyle after that?
Well,
Because
you
I
got Twin
suck.
Towers today too.
Because
So
I
anyway,
suck.
anyways, it's your boy Gio,
It's your boy Donkey. What it do?
and today we got. We just started off a little bit talking about this episode. I'm excited because yeah, after you told your story before we started recording, yeah, man, it sounds interesting. But anyways, welcome him, Jaime.
We got. Some people know him as Willy. You can know some people know him on Instagram as Lord William. Welcome, bro. Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was telling you guys, this yeah. So like the homeowner stuff, like I was kind of rushed into it, but yeah, I was telling Jaime like I wish I one had more time to look into it, and I rushed into it, and two, once I went through it, I was like, I wish I could start a YouTube channel too. I could, teach people of like my findings, of my errors, of what I went through, and a lot of the terminology that I was unfamiliar to, and it was like an unknown process to me. So like I know I mentioned this. I think I was watching what was it, Niners game in
Niners
Puebla.
Cowboys. Yeah.
Yeah. And I told him, and he's like, "Yo, I'll have a podcast. I'll have you on it." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, let's do it, And at the time I was faded, but then I completely forgot about it, and now we're here.
Yeah, and then just to let the people know, out there listening, this episode we're gonna talk about. Willie's gonna talk about his experience buying a home, the process, like he mentioned, the terminology, just so we, because it is an interesting thing. Because I feel me and Jaime, in our future, that's something something we got to start thinking. A home, and sometimes, like you were mentioning before we start recording, you're like, "Cool, I got my loan. Where's the house?" But I guess there's more to that, and that's what we're gonna dive into in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, shit, where to start? That was literally the question I was asking myself when like I was telling you guys, I was looking at apartments, getting ready to move in with my girlfriend, and then where I was living with my parents, and the landlord just told us that he was selling the property. So that kind of switched my whole mindset. My parents were like also now looking with me to rent. Like I was looking for an apartment, they were looking for an apartment. And yeah, and then we noticed that, hey, like apartments right now, and I was trying to stay in Redwood City, are super expensive. Like I was looking for a 2 bedroom because I have my daughter. And my parents were looking for a 2 bedroom, and like fucking shitty one. I used to live in Fair Oaks, just to get one in Fair Oaks, which I think is one of like, not to say that it's a shitty spot or anything, but it's not your best neighborhood in Redwood City. And like we were looking in those areas, and they were up like 2,600, like for a 2 bedroom, and I was like, that's crazy,
Yeah.
So my parents were going to be paying around that money, 2,600. I was going to be paying 2,600. You add those two up, it was about like you're looking at like $5,000, a little over that, and we just didn't make sense. We're going to spend all that money, make someone else rich, and why not just look into purchasing ourselves and actually own something, and it's not that easy, like you shouldn't just think of it like I just said it and like, oh, it's that easy. It also comes with like a down payment and stuff like that, and I will get into that. But yeah, once I made the decision to, like, what, sat down with my parents, and I understood that the journey that I was going to go down wasn't really going to be your picture perfect IG, because I saw some of my friends getting their houses and showing the keys, and they have their families, and it's just them. They went independent and they bought their own house. I wasn't going to be like that. I prepared myself for that. Like I came at peace with it, with myself, where like, okay, I'm gonna buy a house, and I'm gonna buy it with my parents, and I'm gonna be partial owner. It's gonna be 50-50, split down the middle. But how they were saying, like now it's like, instead of me living with my parents, it's like my parents are gonna live with me, because they had that conversation with me. They wanted to help me out on getting a house, and their plan is in, like I was telling you guys before the recording, in 5 years, their plan is they're going to retire and they're going to leave to Mexico, and then that 50% that they have, they're going to just give to me, and that's how they're going to help me. And then in return, they just want, whenever they do come visit from Mexico, to have a place here, to crash out for the month that they're here or whatever amount of time they're here. But yeah, that was the mindset. I don't know if you guys have any questions or you just want me to keep talking.
So how did you find your realtor, your real estate guy? Because I know that was like one of the that might be one of your first steps. I have no idea.
Yeah. So when we made the decision to get a house, nobody owns a house in my family other than my cousin. So we reached out to her and we were like, "Hey, this is the house where we're living is getting sold. We're looking to get to buy a house. Like, what are the process to start?" And she bought her house like 20 years ago. So she's like, "Oh yeah, I could recommend my realtor. It was 20 years ago. I haven't seen her since then, but I have her card if you guys want to give it a shot." She gave us the number. We reached out and we started working with her. And I guess that gets into my first suggestion, like really do some background on your realtor. Like that, I can't stress that enough. Like you want to find someone that has really good reviews. They usually have websites or you could easily find like on Facebook and stuff like that on reviews on the realtor. People, you could even see like people that have helped out. You might even want to like reach out to them and like, how was this realtor? And then also through recommendations. My cousin recommended her, but it was been 20 years since she talked to her. So, a lot changes from then. So when we met with her, I don't want to down talk the realtor, but like we were in a rush. Like I said, the property we were at was being sold and we had 90 days to move. And yeah, she wasn't the greatest. I wish I had more time to do exactly what I just said, do a little bit more research, find the perfect fit for us. And yeah, I felt like I was completely rushed, but yeah, I think your step one, if I could do it all over again, it would be, the first step is making sure first that you are approved for a loan, like go get choose a loan officer, and that could be anywhere from like Gio mentioned, like a bank. It could be a mortgage company, it could be a credit union, and they will start asking you for like, prepare to fully get naked with your finances with this person, because you probably don't share a lot of your finance with anyone, and this person's gonna ask you every single detail, like where's your employment, what's your income. They'll look at your credit score, like what assets, if you have any loans or like cars that you bought, your pay stubs, your bank statement, your tax returns, like all that good stuff, so yeah, be prepared to share all that stuff. So I would say like that's where, if you're starting and you feel like you're ready and you want to get started, I would start off with a loan officer and see if you're pre-approved. Once you're pre-approved for whatever amount of money that you get approved for, then the next step would be getting a realtor and looking. And now you could tell them like, hey, this is what I got approved for, and show me some houses. That'll be like your personal, private, like person that shows you houses, and then they'll ask you the questions and like, they'll practically help you get your dream house.
Right. Since you were rushed, how many houses were you able to see?
So we saw a fair amount. I saw a lot. I downloaded a bunch of apps. The realtor gave me her application her website where like I signed up and I was getting like notified of new houses. But I think one of my friends, actually, when I was going through the process, like a month into the process, one of my boys from a program I did in San Francisco called Europe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but he also got his realtor's license, and I was talking to him, and I was, looking back, I wish I should have used him. I think he would have done a better job, but he also shot me his website, and I started looking in his website, and he was giving me the similar options as the other realtor. So I think they all use the same database. Yeah. Because they were suggesting the same houses. And the only reason I didn't use my friend, it was because I would have to start the whole process again with him. So, and then since I was already on a 90-day crunch, I was like, you know what, let me just move forward with this realtor that I have. But yeah, I did see a fair amount of houses. I wanted to stay in the peninsula since I work in Redwood City, but man, you cannot find a house for under like a mil in the peninsula that's livable. You can find like a house that is like a fixer upper, and it's like probably like 800, 900. Right, at least when I was in the market, which is like around last year, around like November, December time, houses were expensive in the peninsula, and I just had to, be real with myself. And since I had already talked to the loan officer, I knew how much I was approved for. I could not afford the peninsula, so I had to start looking into the East Bay. And yeah,
I've seen like more and more people are like moving out of the peninsula because it's just the only thing that's affordable to buy is like roughly like a condo, and those are still like you're like looking at a 1-bedroom.
Exactly.
But yeah, I see more people moving to the East Bay or even to like Tracy Modesto or like that area because it's just cheaper. But the bad thing is that the work is down here.
There you go. And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I have a friend that they moved to Modesto, but they have to make once we go back to the office, you're gonna have to make that drive. And like, if they require for him to be in office like 2 to 3 days, like, man, that's tough. And so my dad, same thing. That was one of the things my dad said. Like, all my colleagues, they're from Sacramento. They have huge houses. These houses are fucking nice, like pool. Like, I'm talking about like that house you get in the final mission in GTA. But like, at what price? These people have to wake up early, 2 hours from Sac to get here, start at 8. Then they're off at 5, catch traffic because everyone else also lives and is getting off at 5. And then you drive back 2 hours, and you hear all these different stories where like people are like, either it catches up to them, they fall asleep behind the wheel and crash. They end up like stressing out a lot and having, it affects their health. And they start looking more tired. They start looking older. Or it's just as little as they leave the house and their kids are sleeping, and then they get to the house and the kids are sleeping. So they're not really getting to enjoy their family. They have a house, but at what cost,
And then if you go back, they take away 5 hours of their day on the road.
Exactly. And like, I get it, like, to me, I've always had the saying where like, I value my time, and there's no money that or whatever price that you could pay me for my time. So if you're taking 5 hours out of my every day, like, no one could give you those 5 hours back, So, I mean, to each his own. I'll be lying to you guys. I looked at houses in Sacramento. I looked at houses in Modesto, and they're super nice, and they were cheaper than they are here. They're not as cheap as they used to be, but yeah, I had to, like I said, be real with myself, and I can't do that, man.
So after you found your house, like what drew you to that?
So okay, yeah, we looked at several houses. Some houses, like, they were not meeting our criterias, and we were just looking for something. My dad works construction, so our expectations weren't like that high because we could fix anything. Or at least he can, and he told me that, and obviously I'm gonna help him out. But so we just wanted something like livable. But then when we saw this house that we ended up getting, it was actually like higher than what we expected, at least for like how it looked. It had just gotten remodeled for the price it had. It met all, it like checked off all of our things, And the one thing that people didn't like that were in the market searching, which to us, it worked to our benefit. Like, it's in it's in a private area, but it's near a freeway. I mean, you don't hear anything here, but apparently that people don't like. But to me, that worked out because I need to be near the freeway to get to work hella fast, So that to me was not a bad thing. But apparently that's what the realtor tell us, like, oh, you guys have a great chance in this house. I know it's really pretty, but it's next to the freeway, and people don't like living next to the freeway. Think of it as like Rollinson in
Okay.
Right.
you know how it's right next to the freeway, but like you know, the it's a little bit further, and at least in Ronson, like the wall's right there.
Yeah.
Like I hear there's a patch of grass, and then there's the wall. So it's a little bit further. That, and what was the other thing? Oh, and like the BART passes through here, but it's kind of far. You don't really, you get to see it, but you don't really hear it. But apparently that was like a deal breaker for some people because they think that like, oh, that's not your privacy. You know, the train is passing and everybody could see. Um, but I mean, you could fix that by like putting your fences a little bit higher, which is what the project that we're working on right now with my dad. But yeah, to us that wasn't like a deal breaker. So I just, everything seemed to work out for us. So it checked off all of our boxes. So yeah.
Just to circle back, so
Mhm.
what are, you mentioned like, man, if I could do this over, I'll do it different. But what are some things that surprised you about this whole experience that you were like, man, I have no idea that's what you do to do this process?
Yeah. Sheesh. All right. Looking back, what was difficult? Honestly, the terminology was like I wasn't prepared for these like, and it's hard, man. Like nobody prepares you for this. It and you work in the bank, right, Gio?
Hmm.
So maybe to you they're familiar. To me, when I was dealing with them, like uh, I didn't know, and like I told you guys, like um, I had to also translate to my parents what they were saying, but it's like, how do you translate escrow to my parents? And I don't even know what escrow is, you know? So like, and I'm just there like, oh, ¿qué dijo? And I'm like, I don't know.
El escrow. El escrow.
And escrow. So I was like, yo, like, I was like, can you explain what escrow means? And then she would explain it to me with like fancier terms that I didn't really mean stuff to me, you know? And I was like, fuck, dude. So that goes back to like, picking a good realtor. I feel like maybe she was good when she was, my cousin might have met her when she was barely starting, and maybe you want someone that's barely starting because they're hungry to get that like recognition.
Right.
My realtor, she's been doing it for 20 years, so like to her it was just, another person buying a house, and I started seeing that every single time we would meet. Like she would say little comments that I was like, what? Like, for example, like, oh yeah, like, last year I made over like 300K, and it's like, oh fuck, like that means, she's making money. So to her, we're maybe like stuff that just, I was like, what the hell? And maybe later down as we get through this, I'll tell you guys, like when we were getting closer to like the closing costs or whatnot, and like I told you guys, shit, I don't how to explain this. So how I told you guys about the bidding war,
Yeah.
Right.
and how I ended up like fucking myself over because I got approved for like a certain amount, and then I for example, like we'll just throw a number, like I got approved for like let's say $1 million, right?
Hmm.
And then I was shopping for a house that was around like 800, just to give myself that space of 200 to be bidding. And I'm over here bidding like, I still got 200K. I got approved for
Yeah.
200K. But then in reality, and here comes another term for you guys, the appraisal comes, which is, where the loan officer or the bank comes and checks, and they actually tell you, hey, I know that you got in a bidding war and the house was, you guys ended up with the house at like 950, or maybe that's too crazy. We'll say like 850. And we value the house for 800. So those 50 that you got in a bidding war with someone else have to actually come from your pocket on closing day, on top of the like deposit that you're going to give, on top of the home insurance that you're going to pay for, on top of like the taxes that you're going to pay, and all these fees that you pay. On top of that, like this comes. So I guess to bring it full circle and to answer your question, the most difficult part of it all was, working against the clock because I had 90 days and I feel like I was rushed. And like, sad to say it, but my realtor, man, like that was, I made a very poor decision with that. I didn't really feel like I had the backing of my realtor, like when I had questions, I didn't really feel like they were answered. She made those little comments that made me feel like, oh, I just sold a house this morning to someone that like, and they paid it all, like almost all of it. And I'm like, damn, like, shit, I'm not there, you know, like stuff like that. And even when I was going through the closing costs, like she's explaining to me what I just explained to you, that those 50K have to come from my pocket on closing day. Um, she was like, yeah, well, that's the market we're in right now. So if you don't have that money, I know people right now that are willing to cash that money out quick. And I'm like, what are you trying to say? Like that we're broke or what? Like, you
Damn.
know, like make me feel some type of way. And even to that point, when she said that, I popped off. I was like, yo, you didn't do your job. You didn't explain to me that I was getting myself into a bidding war. And if the house got valued lower than what we agreed to pay in the bidding war, that whatever that difference was had to come at closing day. Like, so basically I fucked myself over and now I got to pay for the fuck over, you know, and you didn't do your job. You didn't explain that to me. If not, I would have never got into a bidding war. And me saying that, popping off on her, my family even got mad at me. They were like, yo, like we're in crunch time. We're literally like 2 weeks from like being homeless practically. And you're getting a fight with the realtor and this, and they were all mad at me. Like whatever mistake we made, we'll ask one of our aunts to let us borrow that money and we'll pay her off, you know, like, because you could do that. You could ask your family for gift money, and then you could just like, you know, obviously you'll pay them back, but it's just a gift. And that was the what we were gonna do. Well, we're gonna have one of my aunts give a gift and this and that, and we're gonna pay that amount that we fucked ourselves over. And this is where I realized that a realtor was pretty much trash when I popped off on her and I told, you know what, like I kept it professional, never insulted her or anything, even though sometimes she got on my nerves. But when she said that, like, you know, I got people right now that could pay whatever money and they don't even have another term for you guys, contingency, you know, like on the deposit and shit like that. And then when I popped off of her, literally within 24 hours, my family was mad at me and they were scared because we might lose this house that we were about to like close in on. She calls us the next day and like, oh, I talked to the loan officer and I talked to the seller. That amount that you guys were going to pay, well, it's only going to be now less because I talked them out of it. And it's like, yo, it sounds like you were trying to come up on some money, you know? And if I wouldn't have popped off that day, we would have probably gone through with paying that money.
Like roughly, like how much does the realtor make off of once they sell a house?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So a realtor they have to close the deal. And once they do, they make anywhere, I think it's from like 2% or 3% of the sale, of the final sale price. So if you upbid, they're gonna make a little bit more money, you know? So yeah, you gotta also, that's why I say, like, if anyone that's going into this, like, really know what you could afford, what you could do, because you could, they're going to do their job. You know, the realtor needs to sell you a house. They're going to do their job. So you can't like blame them. And the loan officer is going to approve you for whatever you approve. You know, they're not going to tell you like, oh, you're approved for 900,000, but don't get a 900,000 house. They're not going to say that, you know, they're just going to do their job. So you should know how much you could afford. You should know how much you're willing to go up to. You should know all your numbers before you go into this. And like a good like rule of thumb that I learned, like through multiple hours and YouTube research, is like whatever you make in a month as and I think this is how a loan officer looks at it too, like your gross income, which your gross is it's before taxes, opposed to your net, which is after taxes. So if you look at your gross and they divide it in half. So for example, like, oh, this person makes like 600K a month. I mean, 6K a month. If you divide that in half, it's 3,000. So they can afford a mortgage of 3,000 a month. That's just how they see it, you know. And then on top of that, if you have like credit cards and you have debt, you have credit cards and you have a car, they'll look at that too and be like, okay, so we cut it in half, and so out of 6,000, he could afford a $3,000 mortgage, but he has a car loan that he pays, you know, for easy math. Easy math will say 200. So now those 3,000 turn into like 2,800. And he also has a credit card debt, and they add up all the minimum payments that you're doing. Let's say it's 100. So that's 300 that they'll take away from that 50% that they already did. And then now you start seeing how a loan officer looks at it. And they're basing this off of your gross before the taxes. The reality is that's not what the person is netting in, you know, like So that's what I'm saying. You got to know your numbers, and I think the rule of thumb is like from your net, your mortgage, ideally, if you're like really perfect, you want to be perfect about it, is 30%. Your mortgage should be 30% of your net. But that's like if you're talking to like a financial expert. But what a regular person, the regular like normal people like you and I, where the reality is, you end up paying like 40% of your net. So you should be going into this knowing like, hey, 40% of what I make is what my mortgage should be paying, and you won't be like quote unquote paying too much or overpaying or whatnot. But full disclosure, I'm not a financial advisor.
This is just off your experience.
Yeah, off of my own experience. Yeah, I don't want anyone just hitting me up like, I heard you tell and that podcast, this and that, and yeah, no, fuck that. But
So,
yeah.
so you get the loan, right?
Uh-huh.
You get the loan. You're with the realtor, but what's something else that you're like, well, I got to get that too? What is that? What are some things that they also put on you that you have to get now that you're a homeowner?
Okay. Home insurance, like depending also on like, then you get into these little small programs like first house for first FHA, I think, first house buyer or something. So I forget what it's called. I didn't opt into that.
First home buyer, right? You get like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I remember you were telling me at Fuego that there's like different percentages, right? That you could opt into, and I was like, what the fuck? I never heard about that.
Yeah. So like, let's see. So the FHA or something like that. Sorry, I don't know it. I was hearing different things from different people. Like, that's great, but don't opt in because, and then I did my research and I saw, and it is true. Like if you do first time buying house, whatever, that's what we'll call it. You have to put 3.5% towards a house as down payment, but you're gonna have to, for the lifetime of the loan, which most of them are 30 years, for 30 years, you have to have insurance on that house. You have to. So you can't, opposed to conventional, which is what I did, which you give more than 3.5, which is about like 5% or 6%. Like what usually people do. You still get home insurance, but once you own 20% of the house, you have the option to take the insurance off, and that's an extra payment that you don't have to pay. But in reality, when you have an asset like a house that is a lot of money, it just makes sense to have insurance on it. I don't see why I wouldn't have insurance on my house, because if something would happen and I already own 20% of the house and I take off the insurance and then something happens to the house, then whatever happens to the house has to come out of my pocket. So it doesn't make sense for me to not have insurance on my property. But when I was first introduced to the whole first time buyer thing, they told me like, oh, don't opt into it because you're gonna have insurance. You have to have insurance for the 30 years of your loan, and it's a shitty insurance that the government gives you, and it doesn't really cover you for much, So it's a shitty insurance that's expensive, and it doesn't cover you. Then, like I said, I only had 90 days, so I believed that, and so I was like, I'm not gonna do FHA. But the reality is, then later I did some research when I had some time, and I was like, did I really get fucked over? Like, let me do my research now with time, and it was like, that was not all true, No one, and through my research, and I don't know if it's true or not. No one said that it's a shitty insurance. It just says that you have to be in insurance for 30 years. That's it. That's the only difference. You have to have insurance for 30. I didn't see anything about being shitty. I didn't see of anything being like more expensive than other. And now looking back on it, maybe I should have opted into that because I would have gave a less down payment, so 3.5. And like I told you guys, I don't see myself not having insurance on my house. I might be wrong. I don't know. I'm super new to this too. So
And yeah, I forgot I forgot to mention, like, so the loan wise, you said 30 years, right? Is that like standard? Is there other options? Like, what are some options for getting this loan?
Yeah, so to my understanding, I think it's 30 years. That's like what usually people do. But once you, I think, start paying, and this is something that maybe I could do on part two. Ya me invité para la otra. I have to look into it. So I was told by my realtor, which again, I don't know if I could trust that, but she said in a year, don't buy a car because that's what typically what someone will do. Your
Yeah.
credit goes up. Your credit goes up, when you buy a house. So people buy cars, start buying other stuff, but that just gets you in debt. So in a year, you can refinance your house, and by refinancing, your mortgage will drop. She said I could do it in a year. I don't know how true that is. I would have to look into it. But my understanding about refinancing, and you correct me, Gio, because probably know more about this than me. Um, Basically, you're just adding more years to your loan. So if I had a 30-year loan, I could probably extend it a little more, like 5 more years, which will buy me a little bit more, squeeze a little more space and lower my mortgage payment. But I haven't looked into that, so don't hold me accountable to that.
Yeah, I mean that's the just obviously I can't say anything technically speaking, because then I have to say where I work, what company and stuff.
Okay.
So, but um, I mean, also I'm not licensed, so I wouldn't be able to best advise you. But yeah, what you're saying around there is pretty true.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, like most of them are 30 years.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you know like how much of a how much is a good amount for a down payment? Because I've heard like like you'd be okay with like 20K, but then I heard like others like 40K.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy. So like I'll give you the ideal scenario, right? Like
Depends
this,
also right on the price of the house and
yep. So
yeah.
it depends on the price of the house. And so when you find your loan officer will tell you, like if you have better credit score, like that interest is gonna look lower, and the more percentage you give on a down payment, the better your loan terms will be, and whatnot. And that is true. So the ideal scenario that your loan officer would like for you to do, but nobody really has. The ideal scenario is to have a credit score of like 740 and put 20% down of whatever the house is. Keep in mind, that's a lot of money, like 20% of like 1 mil, because that's kind of like the average house out here. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So like the I think the typical like decent, you'll get some decent options is like having a credit score of like 680, and putting down 3.5 down payment. That will be, I can't really give you a specific number
Yeah.
because like depending on the price of the house, 3% of that's what it'll be. I'll tell you, for my house, we ended up giving like 5%. um but yeah, and that made our mortgage payments a little bit less, not much more, but we just wanted to pay a little more front to get to that 20% quicker. And you could give more, like if that month, your mortgage is like 5,000, you want to, I don't know, you got a bonus or whatever, and you want to throw 6,000 just to get it out of the way, like go for it, man. Like it'll get you to own that house quicker, and it'll drop your mortgage payments and whatnot.
That's crazy how like one thing affects the other thing.
Oh yeah, man. I'm telling you, like even if you co-sign, like if you co-sign for someone and now you're trying to buy a house, and let's say like, I co-sign with you, Tanke, on a car, and you fucking missed a payment and I have nothing to do, but if my name is there, that looks bad on me. Like they're gonna be like, oh, like you missed the payment here. And I'm like, nah, what do you mean I missed a payment on a car? I don't even have a car. It's like, oh, well, it sounds here that you co-sign on this car and he missed the payment, so it means you missed the payment. And it's like, fuck.
Damn.
Yeah, so no co-signing, at least not within the year.
At least not with Jaime because he misses payment.
Damn.
Yeah, we're gonna have to sell some of those kicks back
I
there.
know.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of factors. Like in the process of you, like, going through this home buying, don't open any credit cards, no new accounts, because that affects your credit score. Don't get any loans. um don't fucking get any cash. Don't take any cash. Like, you can't be like, oh, I have to give whatever, like $50,000, right? And I'm short like $5,000, and Gio and Tanke owe me 5,000, so they owed me money, and I collected the money and I put that cash in the bank. You're better off using that cash somewhere else. Go to a strip club or something, because that's not gonna, unless me and you and I made an agreement on loan terms, and we sign a paper, and I say that I lent you $5,000 and there's paper trail to it, then okay. If not, it's gonna be seen as money laundering, and that doesn't fly. Even Bevmo gets a little bit sketchy. Oh no, I just transferred that from my Bevmo. Okay, well, where did it come from? And every penny has to have, like, where it came from. So yeah, like, what counts is like pay stubs, paychecks. If you get a bonus, that counts. Any loans that you have paper trail, like I told you, like if I let you borrow money, excuse me, and I have like a paper trail, like, oh yeah, Jaime signed here that he owed me $5,000, so now I'm gonna go collect that. Then that counts. If you sold a car and you went through the DMV, and you actually, instead of putting GIF on the pink slip, you actually put the price that it is. Then you could use that money. If it's just plain cash and you don't have any way of showing it that you actually, got it the right way, don't use it, because they'll look at that and they'll be like, that money doesn't count.
Damn, that's fucking crazy, man. They like
Yeah.
dig into your financials deep.
Oh yeah, they do. They look at your income, like, don't change jobs. Because if you do, like, that's a problem. They look like 2 years into your, like, employment. They want to make sure that, either you are making the same amount of money, or if you did switch jobs, that at least you're getting paid the same way. Like, what I mean by that, like, if you were at a company and you were getting like W-2, that wherever you went, it's still W-2. That kind of, they'll work with you on that. If you transfer jobs, they want to make sure that there was at least growth. Like, you can't be like, oh, I was working here and made like $10, and now I'm over here and I make $9. That doesn't really look good. Like, I'm about to give you like $1 million, and you can't even afford this. And it seems like you're dropping in value in jobs. So I don't trust you with $1 million. I don't think you can pay me back. So, you know, you got to also think from their side. They're giving you a large amount of money, and they just want to make sure that they're gonna get their money's worth back. But yeah, but saying that, don't stay at a job just to buy a house. Like, if you don't like the job, get the fuck out of there.
So if obviously you mentioned that this was pretty much like, quick, like one day you were gonna rent, and then the next day you were like, I'm gonna buy a house. But did you have like a cushion of like, all right, I'm gonna put this money aside in case I do a big change in my life, like you did, like, or did you not think about that before you made this purchase?
Yeah, hell yeah! I bought crypto when it was. Nah, I'm kidding.
I was
Nah,
like, you're at the Stark Industries.
nah, man. I think that's a good question. So there's definitely like some pre-steps that you could take into. I think, like I said, I didn't go down the ideal way where like I bought my house myself and like I took my time to buy it and shit. So like there's definitely some things to think about when you're about to go there. Like, definitely think of like a timeline. Like, okay, right now I'm renting. My lease is up in like 9 months. So like, maybe you have that as 9 months to, like, what, because if start planning adequately, like, when that time comes, maybe I'm gonna start looking like 3 months before that, because it does take like 2 to 3 months to get something, or it could take more, 6 months or whatnot. And I think we can make a whole other episode on this, but like, I got thanks to COVID, I was spending my money like crazy. So like, I was kind of forced to start saving because I wasn't going anywhere. I was going like to concerts, and in Redwood it's easy to, like, a blacksmith and the German and A40 have all of my money in there, all my pay stuff. So, in a weird way, I'm thankful for COVID. It forced me to stay in. I had money. I started saving, and I started reading. And to me, I was big on like reading about, I like reading, like novels on stories and stuff like that. But at this time I was like, you know what, I need to get better in financing, and I'm gonna start looking at finance books. And then in me reading, I noticed like, yo, I fall asleep reading, bro. Like, and I don't remember half of this shit. So then I was like, what can I do? What can I do? So and I don't even know if this is considered reading, but I got Audible and I got the physical book. So now they're literally reading it to me, and I'm just highlighting shit and taking notes on the book. So like an hour or two before I go to bed, I grab my book and I put my headphones on and I just start highlighting shit, and like, and I picked something that I was interested in, which was finance, and decided to get financially, because I was living paycheck to paycheck. And then I just decided like, hey, I got tired of that. So I started reading this book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And basically, it's not the rich that, as that's the first thing I thought too. I'm gonna be rich. But no, the mentality behind it is just being debt free. Once you're debt free, then you have money to play around with. And once you have money to play around with, my riches might be different than your rich. Like in the book, the guy says that he was in college and he always said, like, I would consider myself rich when I could go out and eat every day. If I could afford to eat out every day, then I'm rich. So like, what is your rich? And whatever your rich is, once you achieve that, I'm sure you'll have more goals, and then your rich keeps changing every year. It'll keep changing. But long story short, in this book, like, I was in debt and I was living paycheck to paycheck. The first chapter is like how to get out of debt. And that was like amazing. I didn't fucking know how to tackle down that, and he talks about like two ways that you could go about it. There's like an avalanche way, and there's and I'm not sure if you guys heard of this, like avalanche and snowball effect. Basically, if I could explain it quick, you basically put all the debt that all your credit cards, all you owe and shit, put them all in like order of like whatever you owe, boom, 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 like 200, 100, 200, whatever, right? And then put all of the APR that you pay on that, boom, all the interest, boom, 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 this is the interest that I pay on them. And then put the minimum payment of all of them, boom, 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 minimum, this is the minimum payment, $30, $30, $30, 35, 35. Okay. Once you have all that laid down, then put how much you make a month, how much do you make a month? Then put all your expenses. I pay rent, this much rent, I pay this much. So it's gonna take some work, like you're gonna have to spend that time. I pay this much rent, I pay this much for my phone, I spend this much, and I don't know, put all your utilities and whatever. And then with that number that you end up, that's what you should freely be able to spend whatever you want, right? So based on that number that you end up with, I wish I could explain it better. Let's say it's $1,000, right? Keep it real with yourself, and like, how much are you willing to set aside to also, obviously, go out, have fun, and do whatever you like doing, but also kind of tackle down, like, how much are you willing to put out of that $1,000 that after you paid all your utilities and all that, your responsibilities are taken care of, from those $1,000, how much are you willing, like, freely throw towards your debt? Let's say out of those 1,000, you say, you know what, fuck it, I really want to get out of debt. I have $1,000 to play around with. I'm gonna give half. So that means that 500 are gonna go towards your debt. So then now that you have all your debts lined up, then that's when the avalanche way and the snowball starts kicking in. So the avalanche way, you start tackling down. It's called avalanche because you see quick results, And as millennials, we like to see quick results. You don't see results, you're like, where the fuck is my money going? So from the avalanche standpoint, you target the account or credit that you owe the least, So like, if you put them all in line, you owe 500 here, you owe 600 here, you owe like 700 over there, and you owe like $100 on this one. So then you target that least one, $100. You have $500 that you said you were going to throw towards that, So you pay the minimum on all the other cards. So you pay 30, 30, 30, 30, and then whatever's ya pagaste todas, ya nomás te falta the one that you're targeting. You throw whatever's left over, all of it, throw it to that account in hopes that you get rid of it. With the avalanche way, though, what you're not seeing, you're just seeing you're closing out an account and you're getting rid of that account, but you're not seeing that maybe that wasn't the one that you're paying the most APR on. So you might end up paying more interest at the end of the day, but at least you're already like targeting like to get out of debt, and two, like I said, as millennials, we like to see quick. You'll probably feel good, like, oh shit, I know now instead of 4 credit cards, I only have 3, so whatever works. And then the other one, the snowball, you don't really see a snowball because it's slow. You don't really see much effect. What you're going to target is the one with the highest interest, but the benefit of that one is you no longer, at the end of the day, when you look at both methods, on this one, you didn't pay a lot of an interest because you target the one with the highest interest. So, again, like I said, I could go deeper into it in another episode.
Damn.
Come back.
And you know what's
Yeah.
crazy too, that not a lot of people know, that I found out too,
I didn't.
was like, let's say you have like 3 credit cards and then you pay off one credit card and you're like, all right, I don't want to use this credit card, so I'm gonna close that account. You close that account. I didn't know, because I did that. I was like, I'm not gonna use this no more. I'm gonna close it.
Yeah.
I closed it, and then like through Credit Karma or whatever, you can look at your FICO score.
Yeah.
I noticed that my credit score went down. I was like, what the fuck? I paid it off. Like, why did it go down? I didn't know that by closing your credit card account, your credit score goes down. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
why I always pay it off, and if you don't use it, don't use it.
Yeah.
It's better like that.
Yeah, or just use it like, your regular, if you're doing grocery shopping, like just use it for that. Make sure it's like you're steady using it, and that you could put in what you could pay literally on that month right back. Or like Gio said, just don't use it, don't close it, because you close it in it, that affects. Companies want to see that you have a lot of credit lines open and that you have a long history with those cards open. So that's why it affects you. If you close one, that's less accounts that you have, and that history with that one kind of ends. So then you're looking like, you don't have that much history with credit and you have less accounts. It sucks. Credit and all that. It's kind of like it's a rigged system.
you
But the
think
fact that most people don't know, we have 3 credit scores.
Yeah.
If you go to one bank and they're like, "This is your credit score," and you're like, "No, I checked it. It's this one." But they
I
could
check Credit Karma.
I mean, there's 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and they all have different credit scores. They're pretty in the ballpark together, but you may have 20 more or 20 less.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. Another thing is, like, if you're getting ready for a house and you're already kind of paying your that's why I say timeline. Know when you're gonna go into buying a house. When you're getting ready, you're almost done with your debt. Like, make sure that it's like before the lenders pull like records from the end of the month and like middle of the month. So ideally, everyone says, or like through my YouTube finds and whatever, like, be able to pay around like the 24th realistically, because then they start pulling and you're like, no, wait, I already paid my credit cards. I'll be like, oh no, you're gonna have to wait another month till we pull again, because this is still showing up. You still owed like this. So having that timeline, knowing when you want to be out of debt, and honestly, like, it's a journey for some people. Like, it takes like it like I said, COVID happened, and for me, it took me like a solid year and a half to be debt free, and once I was debt free, I felt great, but then I didn't know what to do with money. I'm like, oh shit, I want to get in debt again.
like, ah, shit, here we go
again. Those toxic behaviors, you can never get rid of them. But yeah, that book, it's great, man. Like, the first one is like how to tackle debt, and then like the second section is like how to use credit cards to your advantage. Like, and this is something I didn't know either. Like, like, you're using your credit card has some advantages. Like, when you go to Best Buy and you buy the PS5, and then they're like, hey, do you want to buy a 2-year warranty on this? It has 1-year manufacturer warranty, but after that, you're shit out of luck. If you buy it with your credit card, well, this at least with the Chase Freedom card, it already comes with an extended 2-year warranty because you bought it with Chase. Just the simple, so you could just freely be like, nah, thanks, man. Like, I already got 2-year warranty on this with my credit card. You don't have to say that, but
Yeah.
in the back of the mind, you already know that.
Dang.
Same goes for your phones. Like we all have phones, and you go to AT&T, you buy a phone. They're like, oh, you just bought this nice phone. Don't you want to put insurance on it? It's an extra like $10, and you could be like, nah, I'm cool because I'm gonna pay my phone bill with my credit card, and Chase gives me insurance to my phone. I mean, it's an extra phone call, like calling Chase, like, hey, my phone broke, but they'll cover it. So you don't have to pay for insurance for your credit card. So little things like that I learned through the book, that you could use your credit card, and not to mention you get like, reward points, shit like that. If you also like, your a card gets hacked, if it's your debit card, yeah, your bank will help you, but they're not really stressing because it's not their money. But if it's a credit card, oh, they're gonna be on it because that's their money. So they'll get it. So yeah, 1,000 times use a credit card, but use it smartly.
That's a big one. Like I said, I can't say much, but definitely use your credit card instead of your debit card on gas stations.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, nah. It's like I said, we could do a whole nother episode on
Oh, for
that, like
sure.
how to automate your finance life. I work in tech, so us, like, whenever you see something that you're using a lot of your like time, and you can see, like, you're in an Excel sheet and you're typing in all these numbers, and it's kind of like repetitive work, you automate that shit. Like, hey, I could do this, let's automate it. So if I could do that with my finance, like, perfect. And I found a way to do it through this book, like you know, little things that you don't even think about. Like if I have a bank account with Chase, and I have my savings there too. And let's say I'm already like kind of running low on my bank account. Like, let's say I got $20, and it's Thursday and I get paid like on next Friday. And then Gio's like, hey, yo, let's go to the German bar, And since I have both of my accounts in the same bank, I go like, you know what? We out. Let me transfer my savings, and you transfer it right away. And it happens quick because it's the same bank. But if you use what I use is Ally as my savings account, um, in order for my savings to come to now I sound like Kevin Hart, and my
Yeah.
savings and my
Savings
the way
doesn't
my
come
finances
through.
are set
My bank account
up. No, but like realistically, like the way my account is set up, like my bank account, it takes 3 days for it to go to my bank account. So from my savings to my bankings, it'll take 3 days. So my bad, you. I can't go like in 3 days, like, and that's kind of holds you accountable. Like, yeah, you missed out on that day, but hey, at least I'm closer to being debt free, or I didn't spend that money that I didn't have, and that's something that ended up working for me. So I did it, like, hey, let me have my savings in this bank and having my bankings in this other bank, and whenever I need to, those times come and I want to pull, like, it makes it hard on me. And in 3 business days, ya pasó the whole German
Yeah.
turn up,
But luckily, Germany will still be there after those 3
German will
days.
still be there no matter what. A42.
Exactly.
If they don't take 3 business days, they get it right away. But
Yeah.
to circle back, so the stress about getting the home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, fuck, man, like it's so stressful. But once you got those keys, what was that feeling?
Oh
Being, damn.
man. To be honest, like, I cried. I cried with my mom. I cried with my dad. And it's like I never thought I was gonna buy a house, like, fuck. I come from a bad neighborhood. I grew up in Fair Oaks, and no one grows up thinking that, well, first of all, I never thought I would make it out of there. Everyone there is either you play soccer or you get shot or you go to jail, So like there wasn't much that I could look up to there. And I've lost a couple friends and to the gang life or to jail, or even they're dead. So just knowing that, I fucking did it, and then I was kind of forced into it because, like I said, the house we were renting was getting, it was being sold, and we had 90 days, and looking at how everything was playing out. And I don't know, God works in mysterious ways. Like, I had picked up this financial book like a year and a half before this, and I don't know what I was preparing myself for. I just thought I was just getting out of debt and starting a savings account. And look what it turned out to. 2 years later, year and a half later, like I was ready when that opportunity knocked at the door where like, hey, like I don't have the full amount for a down payment, but my parents are willing to go halves on it. So us together, we do have it. And to them, it's like, this is something that I could leave to my son. And I have sisters, and all they ask is for always having an open door for them, which is my family, and that's what I grew up on. So yeah, I went from, living in Fair Oaks, not having a room. I would sleep in the living room. So like on weekends, like I'm over here like hella tired, thinking that I'm gonna wake up late on a Saturday morning, and everybody's up. My room is the living room, so they want to watch TV, or they're like the living rooms are next to the kitchen, so they start cooking, and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta get up, and it's like 7, and I'm like, fuck, why you guys cooking hella early, or what's going on? What TV shows on that you guys really want to watch, But like, yeah, that feeling was amazing, Like I said, I didn't do it like the typical person does it, where I see on IG everybody like, oh, I got my house, and they did it on their own and stuff like that. I didn't have that opportunity, and whoever does have that opportunity, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's awesome for them. For me, I feel successful, and I feel like I did it, and by doing so, and this is why I decided to do this podcast with you, and I'm thankful that you guys gave me this platform. Help others that maybe come from similar backgrounds and stuff like that. Like, don't lose hope. And I know that one of the major things was like unknown territory for me, and I didn't know what it would take, and a lot of the terminology. And if you like, we could get into it, because I know I did throw a lot of like terminologies out there, and I myself didn't know what it was, and I could explain it. But yeah, but to answer your question, like, it was surreal. It still is, man. Like Chris Rock says, like I got a backpack right here, because it doesn't feel like it's my house. I feel like the Ronos are coming any day now, and I gotta head out.
You
So
think
yeah.
this house is gonna be your forever house, or do you think you'll ever like be like, all right, I'll sell it and then move back to the peninsula? Because I mean,
Yeah.
peninsula is
That's a
home.
good question. Hell yeah. No, that's a good question. Yeah, that is the plan. I want to go back to Redwood. Born and raised in Redwood. As of right now, I work in Redwood, but I do want to go back to the peninsula. Maybe not Redwood City. I would love to go to Redwood City, but Redwood City is like super expensive. But now with this, I have something to leverage. Like I could sell this and maybe like get more money later down the road or whatnot. And now having this, not now, but maybe later down the road too, like looking into, I hear a lot of my friends that they're buying houses out in the valley, Stockton and Modesto, and they just rent them out and have the house pay itself,
Yeah.
So like, that's something that I might look into. Not right now, I'm broke as hell with this house, but we gotta, I'm rebuilding, and yeah, we'll see. Maybe when I refinance, tax season is around the corner. Yeah, we'll see. But the plan, ideally, yeah, move back to the peninsula, and maybe like a long-term goal, like buy a house somewhere else and have it pay itself.
Yeah, and I mean, to circle back, technically you're not broke. Like you said, the reason why you want to rent is to pay somebody else that money. This is
Yeah,
towards your house, and you have that equity of the home.
exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's facts. And yeah, también no ser cargado, like enough to pay the mortgage, All I want is the house to get paid. And if someone's gonna be using the house, go for it, like build your family there or whatnot. Just don't destroy my house and we'll be good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't mind, I like, my major goal was to explain this terminology, and maybe like whoever stuck around towards the end gives this little like uh breakdown of terms of how I went about it, like like let's see, like escrow, we kept on talking about escrow and whatnot, like basically what escrow is, it's like think of it like like I'm selling you some pair of kicks, and and you're like, you know what? Like, you give me the money first, and then I'll give you the kicks. And I'm like, nah, you give me the kicks first, and I'll give you the money after, like, and then we're just stuck like that. We don't trust one another. We don't know one another. We're just like that. So that's where escrow comes in. It'll be Gio, and he's like, hey, I'm a third party, and give me the shoes and give me the money, and I'll hold it. I'll make sure that once all the paperwork and everything is going on, I'll make sure that everyone gets what they're getting, And if something doesn't fall through, then okay, I'll give you back your money and I'll give you back your shoes. So if something happens down the road, but you have to pay for that. So there's a fee for that, just for a person being the third party, being there. So there's a fee to process your purchase of sale. And basically it gets paid 50-50. Like, you'll pay half of it, I'll pay half of it. So nobody's like getting fucked over or whatnot. And there's just like a fee to oversee the process of the sale and make sure that the sale goes how it's supposed to. So yeah, just a third party. And I guess that, go for it.
Oh no, that's crazy. I was gonna ask you, what is you brought up contingency? What was that?
Oh yeah. So when you're getting ready to close, I guess this is where we miss. Like, first thing is you check out your loan, make sure that you're pre-approved. Then you get a realtor, you start house shopping and all this fun stuff. Once you zero in into the house that you want, then you move into like the offer portion of the house. Like, okay, I want this house. So your realtor will submit a like formal offer letter to the owner of the house, which says like, hey, like, I'm submitting this letter on behalf of like my client, and check this out. Like, this is the loan officer that approved all the paperwork for him. He can afford your house. Here you go. And if the buyer accepts the offer, you go into this like 30-day closing phase. And in that phase, it's important to like not make any financial chases, because right now that's when they're really looking at everything, So yeah, and then that's like that's when you give 2%, like a deposit. You give 2% of what you're going to be giving, which could also go down to the down payment. But you're giving 2% to let the buyer know that like you're serious about this, And then there's offers that come in with contingency, and there's offers that come in without contingency. So if you give I give the 2%, and I say, and keep in mind, if there's also other people looking at this, so I'm the seller and I get an offer with contingency and without contingency. Basically, contingency is an insurance on your deposit. So like, it's a 30-day period. The houses, they're looking at all your finances. They're looking at everything, like if you really are who you are and shit like that. In those 30 days, you give the deposit 2%. And let's say that you keep looking around and you're like, you know what? I found another house. Like, I don't want that house no more. I'm out. If you had contingency, you get your deposit back because you had insurance on your deposit. That's what contingency means. If you don't, the seller is like, all right, go for the house, but I'm keeping your deposit, And some people can afford to do that. Some people could be like, yo, fuck it. Like, keep my 30K, 20K. I don't need them. I'm on to the next, I couldn't. So I was throwing all my bets with contingency. I want my money back, And that was one thing where I go back to the realtor, and she was like, oh, it'll look stronger if we don't put it with contingency. And I'll be like, because think about it, like, I'm the seller. I'm selling a house. Let's say 500,000. Both of you guys are interested. You guys give me the same offer, but Geo's has contingency, which means like if he changes his mind, I got to give him back his money, and you do it without contingency. So you are like, I got you by the balls. So as a seller, who do you? And I'm trying to get done with this. I want to be done. Like, who do you realistically think is going to win that bid? Like. Okay, both of you guys went in a bidding war. You guys both stopped at the same number, but Gio had contingency, which means like he's a serious buyer. He actually submitted the 2%, but if he changes his mind in these 30 days, I have to give him back his money. Opposed to Jaime, you change your mind, I keep your money. So I'm gonna go with that offer because it's a win-win situation for me. If you go through with it, cool. Like we go through and we finalize, and I'm done with selling my house and that headache of that, you know. And if you don't, I still get to keep your 2%, you know, and I'll go with that offer every day.
God
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah. See, and like shit like that, my realtor would be like, "Oh yeah, I think it'll be stronger if we submit a contingency." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. What is contingency?" "Oh, it's just an insurance on your down payment." "And why do I need insurance on my down payment?" "Oh, if you change your mind, or even if you don't change your mind and something happens in the loan process where like, oh, actually, you know, you changed jobs, or any of the things that I told you before that like, you know, your credit score wasn't, they checked it and it dropped, or you opened a new account and it fucked it up, and you're not pulling out, but it's just like now you're not approved for that money, you lose your money because your loan, you know, there's a, it's called like loan contingency, appraisal contingency, and what's the other one, deposit contingency, you know. And that's another word, appraisal. Appraisal, like I could put my house on the market for whatever amount I want, you know, like I could say, okay, my house, I'm gonna sell it for 1 million. Obviously, like I don't know what the selling goes, but I'm guessing that they check the market to see what's selling, and they'll put a number, right? And then you as a buyer, you gotta go and check, like check around or whatnot. And then when you like my house, then and someone else likes my house as well, you guys get in a bidding war, you know. um and then in that process, when you finalize, you guys bid or whatever, you guys, uh what was the example you said? The house was 800, you guys end up bidding and end up at 850, you know, both of you guys, you have contingency, you don't. I take Hymus because he doesn't have contingency, so I already got the 2% for sure in my pocket. So then when appraisal happens, so Gio's out of the picture now, like, you know, he moved on and whatever. So now you're going through the loan, you get a proof of the loan, cool. Now the last part is like appraisal, you know, like, okay, now you're past we're getting close to closing this deal. Now the appraisal, now the bank comes in, or whoever your loan officer is comes in, and they actually look at the house, look at the property, inspect it, and look at everything, and be like, okay, well, check this out, Jaime, you're gonna pay 850 for the house, but we value it for 800. So we appraise it. It's basically the house value. We value it for in the market and with everything that the market is at right now, 800. So that's where contingency comes. If you it's like 850, you overbid and you have contingency on your appraisal, on the appraisal contingency, then you could be like, yo, I good, you know, it's 800. Let me talk to the seller and be like, hey, I have contingency of appraisal, and they said that it was 800. I'm not gonna pay you 850. Let's lower it out to 800, you know. But I fucked up and I didn't do that. I got in a bidding war. I went up 10K more than what the house got appraised, and and yeah, and then I had to cough up those 10K, and then luckily, like, I blew up on my realtor and whatever, and noticed that she was probably just trying to come up on me, and miraculously, like a day later, that 10K turned into like 2K, and it didn't feel that bad, you know, like, oh, okay, cool, like I didn't fuck myself over that much. I'm paying $2,000 over what the house is worth. I'm down with that.
So what happens if she doesn't want to? If they don't want to lower the price?
So that's when you move on to the next house, but they keep your deposit,
Fuck. Okay.
depending if you have contingency or not.
Yeah.
So there's contingency on the appraisal, there's contingency on the inspection, and there's contingency on the loan. So if something happens on your end and you can't afford it anymore, or you're not approved for that amount, the seller keeps your money, and it's your fault for not having the right. I don't know, for losing your pre-qualified or whatever.
Not having
Hopefully
the
that,
yeah,
yeah,
not having the right guidance too.
yeah, that's facts. But yeah, that's contingency. Appraisal is just like how much the house is worth, and then you get in, once you close, you get into the closing cost. There's a closing cost, you know, and that is about like 2 to 3% of whatever the purchase price is, and like that closing cost, it varies, you know, it varies, and it's different fees in different counties and states and whatnot, you know. So you owe the closing costs, you owe a lot of fees to different parties, you know, and that's where like escrow comes in because like not escrow, I mean the title company. There's a title company. This title company will make sure to pay all these parties. Like you just pay the title company and they'll pay all these other fees. So like for the appraisal, they need to come, they have to pay someone to come and do that appraisal. So that's one party you have to pay. There's like home inspection. That's someone you have to pay for the home inspection, you know, to see if there's like small issues, big issues, any repairs. But if that's the case, once you get that evaluation of the house, you could use that to negotiate the you know the price of the house. Like, hey, you know, I said that I would pay this, but the roof is fucked up, you know, like, and I looked into it and it's gonna cost me like, I don't know, like 15K. Like, can we drop it or what? And there, that's when you kind of like, that's when contingency comes in. Like if he says no, like no, I don't want to, like, okay, you had inspection contingency, so now the inspection happened, you could get your money back. If you didn't, you're fucked. You're like, fuck. The inspection happened, the roof is fucked up. I didn't have contingency on it. So now they get to keep my deposit. I have to move forward with this shit. So yeah, I advise. But if you're in a market where like people are, you got to check the market. If people are it's hard to explain because like if people are doing these offers without contingency, then you're gonna be losing every single time because you're coming in this with like contingency and it sucks because you're like I said, like I give you the example, you know, I'm gonna take the one that doesn't have contingency all the time, and Gio's always gonna get overlooked because he has insurance on his money, but you know, and that's why my realtor was like, hey, I'm sorry to say this, I know you want to put insurance on your money, but the market right now, everyone's doing non-contingency. So like that's what the seller's seeing. So you're gonna lose every single time when you go up to the seller and you have insurance on your money, you know. But también te tienes que pensar, and it's like, fuck, I ain't trying to lose 20K.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a lot of money. But yeah,
Where do you look at like for the market, like that type of info? Like, is there a website?
there, to my knowledge, I'm not sure. But just asking around, I'm sure you know someone that's bought a house. Like for example, me, I could tell you the market when I was in, which was like at least 2 months ago. A lot of offers are going in with contingency. A lot of people are willing to lose their money. There's some fucking ballers out here. Like I would go to houses, I like it, and they'll be like, fuck, like people there, like with the cash money, like I got it, I got the mill right now, get everybody out of here, like I want this house right now. And
Wow.
it's like, damn, you fucking got that money, and it's like, yup. And it's like, all right, like
Cool.
you can't beat people like that. And I would always be losing to people like that, and shit, I'll just keep it at there. But yeah, nah, there's some people that are ballers out here, man. Like you be going up and they don't even want it for themselves, which is a sad part. They just want to rent it and make
Yeah.
money.
Usually, though, I mean, that's, yeah, usually those are just looking to do that, you know? That's why they know that if they come like that, they're going to get the house.
Yeah, no, hell yeah. So yeah, like bringing it full circle to the closing costs, you got to pay like the escrow, which I told you guys is like, you know, I have the keys and the money, the third party. You have to pay the appraisal, someone that comes and looks at the house and evaluates it. You got to pay the home inspection. You got to pay the lender fees. And in the lender fee, there's the loan fee, the credit report because they check your credit report fee, the processing fee. Then there's like a title recording fee to like, it's just a record now with your name under the house, and you got to pay for that paper. There's home insurance, you know, like you have to pay for home insurance. There's property tax, and all that put together is the closing costs.
And you gotta pay that up front, huh? Or
Yep,
no? Damn.
yep. You have to pay. You got to pay your closing costs. You got to pay your down payment. Um, yeah, that all comes with that.
God.
So yeah, it's a lot of money. Um, yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's crazy. I
So
didn't know like all this shit you're telling. Cause my parents bought the house that I've been living in Sunnyvale since like 2007,
okay.
and because they owned a house in Tracy, they sold that
Mm-hmm.
house. They used that money as a down payment on this house, and I didn't know like they went through all that shit. I thought it was just like, here's the money, give me the house, and that's it.
Yeah. No, that shit is stressful, man. But like I don't want to scare anyone off. Like
Yeah,
I was on crunch time. There's a lot of programs out there that can help you, like that FHA, that lowers your down payment to 3.5. And it doesn't. There's other programs that I think right now, because of Biden, they give you they'll help you with the closing costs, shit like that. So like you can look into them. I was just like, like stressing, I didn't look into it. I would do research after work, and then after work I'm already on a computer 24/7. So like I want to get off this shit, like I don't want to be on a computer. But then I'll turn around and see reality, and like there's someone in my house, or not my house, the house I was living in, like they're looking at, because they're trying to buy it, and I'm like, oh fuck, we're moving, so let me just and then I got my mom stressing like, yo, we are looking at like 30 days. Now we got 30 days. And I was like, all right, fuck it. Let me turn on this YouTube video and find out what escrow is. And let me find out what like this and that. And yeah, it's tough, but definitely check out there's some good programs. There's the FHA one, which, like I said, lowers down your down payments to 3.5. You don't have to have that much like good credit score. I think it's like 580 to 600. Don't quote me on that. But it does come with its, the pros and cons. Like you have to have insurance for the longevity of that loan. There's programs that'll help you with the down payment. There's programs that will help you with the closing costs, depending on the market. Like our realtor told us, like right now we had to pay the closing costs. That's the market we're in right now. There was a time and place where the seller was paying the closing costs. So check the market, and the best way is to check with somebody that recently bought a house. And if you don't have anyone that bought the house, like I would say the next best thing would be YouTube or just internet resources looking, and you can spend a lot of time looking at it, but it'll be worth it. I think it helped me out, and I think I don't feel like I did like a great job, and I don't think I did a bad job. I think I did a decent job with 90 days that I had.
And I mean, and it sucks too, because I'm sure you were doing all the work. Like your parents looked at you like, hey, like handle it. It's all
exactly. Translate this and look at this paperwork. What are we signing? And I was like, fuck, like I don't know. And this like fat stack of paper like this is like two Bibles on top of each other, and it's like, fuck, dude. And that was also stressful, dude. Like signing all these papers. It took us like 4 hours to sign all these fucking papers, like, yeah, because on the like last week's, when it's all official, there's like a notary that comes and like, you sign the paperwork, and you just a bunch of shit, like you're gonna signing your life away. So I'm part of the Illuminati.
Nah, but definitely, man, like all this information, like I mean, I knew some, but there's some things that you were mentioning that I'm like, damn, like I had no idea either. But I think it was great. I think a lot of people are going to benefit. Like, for example, I'm sure there's someone that's going to watch this video and be like, I'm planning on buying a home, and this is going to help them out, and just sharing your experience. I'm sure, they'll look into that realtor, or they'll look into maybe I need to save a little bit more for all these other costs that I had no idea for. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you sharing all this, and we got to definitely have you back.
Yeah, definitely.
Like there's more things we can get into.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the time.
No, thanks for having me. This was something that I didn't foresee doing, and I don't really do, like, even on my IG, I don't like putting myself out there or whatnot, but I definitely felt some type of way when I bought the house, and like I don't want people to make like I said, I feel like I did an okay job, but like I don't want people to make the same mistake. And if I can help someone else with that, is actually, like you said, looking at a house, hopefully they look at this and it helps them, and do your own research. Don't take my word for it. The market changes, numbers change, interests change. So like do your own research, but hopefully this is a good start for you, or anyone that's looking into it. And if you take one thing out of this, like, work on that, getting out of debt, man. Like that shit is tough. And I know it's easier said than done, but like try to tackle it down. Once you do that, a lot of doors open. You have more money to work with, and it opens up doors, man.
Yep. Stop spending that money at 840.
Yeah, exactly. Facts, but thanks for having me. This is an awesome fucking podcast, and I checked out some of the videos you guys did before. I think Michelado and Vix, that's my boy. I seen that. I seen you guys had George not that long ago. Yeah, no, this is awesome. I think you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up, and yeah, hopefully you guys have me back.
Whenever you're free.
Whatever you want. Other, like I said, I feel like I feel like there's a lot of interesting things that you get into that is very interesting.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad we did this, and I'm glad I could help someone, and yeah, turn into part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
All right, Jaime, sign us
out,
out,
guys. If you guys stayed to the end of the fucking podcast, thank you. Like, subscribe, and follow us on IG. Thank you.
Like, subscribe, guys. Let's get those views up.
Let's go.
That's my boy.